I worked in finance for 3+ years, and here's everything that I learned in the span of my time. For reference, I worked in corporate finance, which is very different from investment banking or wealth management. So if you guys are here for those kinds of videos, just click away. Now, corporate finance is actually just looking at the business and seeing how much money do we need in order to keep growing this business and how can we manage our spending. The top three questions for corporate financial analysts are: how should we spend the money? What have we been doing to spend the money? And how are we going to fund these projects? Now, when it comes to looking at your money position and to make sure that you don't run out of money as a corporate business, you're going to be looking at things like budgeting, forecasting, and even cash management along the way. And when it comes to that spending of money, you're going to be looking at specific projects, any products, or even headcount for hiring needs. Headcount's actually one of the trickiest because you don't know how much people get paid until you do. And then you're like, why am I not getting paid that much? But that's okay. It's the way that the corporate structure is set up. Love it or hate it, that's the way it goes. So imagine running a company where your income is the company's revenue and your bills are the operating expenses. You have savings and investing. This is going to be part of your capital decisions. And you have credit cards or loans, right? So this is your financing as well. Your monthly budget is your FP&A forecasting, where you're looking into the future to anticipate how much you will spend. Corporate finance is kind of the same thing, just with a lot more zeros. Now, from my experience in corporate finance, I was mainly on the operational expense side, really looking at what is the company spending, as well as where are they going to keep spending in the future, making those forecasts when it comes to the end of the quarter, as well as the next year, and as well as the next 5 to 7 years. Now, there's so many parts of the P&L or the profit and loss where you're going to be looking at revenue, finding out your gross margin, finding out your operational expenses, all of these things that make up the entire P&L to know what your net income, the bottom line, is going to be. My main forte was really a lot of the times operational expenses, seeing how much we've spent in the past, calculating run rates, which is averages of how much we spent in the past to anticipate future results. Though it is almost never accurate, that is one of the better ways that you can forecast, other than communicating with your business partners. That might be from engineering, legal, accounting team, every single team or business unit out there to figure out just how much you might spend at the end of that quarter. Now, a quarter is broken up into 4 different pieces. There's Q1 to Q4, but your Q1 might start in October and might end in September. But regardless, a fiscal year makes up 12 months, and that's going to be spread amongst 4 quarters with 3 months in between. Sometimes you will have a forecasting period where you need a forecast by each month, or sometimes you'll have a forecasting period where I needed to forecast for just the end of that quarter. So when it comes to corporate finance and operational expense, there's a lot of pull-ins or push-outs. Now, pulling in is really just another term for paying early. And a scenario of this might be when your company is budgeting X amount of dollars to pay for subscriptions in the month of, let's say, January. Now, a vendor offers a 5% discount, and that's really going to be what you're going to pay in December instead of January. The effect of this is that your quarter 4 is going to be an increased expense due to you paying that expense earlier. And your Q1 is actually going to decrease because you have already paid that expense. This is both legal and common practice amongst finance professionals. And a push out is really just a delaying of payment. And that scenario is really going to be when a company has X amount they need to supply for, let's say, office supplies, and their invoice is due in December. Now, you delay your paying until January because of the company's December cash flow is tight. The invoice is valid and will be paid for the next accounting period. Now, what happens here is that your Q4 expenses are actually decreasing while your Q1 expenses are actually increasing. Now, this is legal as long as it's just timing and you don't mislead the financial results. Because if you do, the IRS audit will be coming for you, and no company ever wants that. The next part is really forecasting, and forecasting really comes to play when you're trying to forecast the future, see into the future. Most times analysts are never correct, 1, and 2, they will never be correct because a forecast is for accuracy, and a lot of the times people are trying to hit those forecast numbers. Even though you might be able to perform better or not perform better, you want to be close to where you forecasted because that is where you, at the end of the day, your numbers are going to be held to you. Now, there's so many pieces that you can forecast. You can either forecast headcount, materials, logistics, the list goes on, manufacturing costs. There's every single piece of the P&L that you can start forecasting, or the operational expense side. Most of the expenses really come from headcount. If you are a company that is still having a product out there that needs millions of dollars to produce, one of the biggest, if not the biggest, is still going to be headcount, because you need great talent that is going to be working on those products. Those product life cycles need to be turned around very quickly. And with people that can perform, there is going to be a price tag for them. So headcount is one of the things that is heavily looked at, heavily scrutinized all the time of, do we need this headcount? One. Two, is this going to be vital for the project to succeed? Three, is the headcount going to be needing to get cut in the future, or does it need to increase to get to where we want to go as a business? And a lot of the times there's going to be pushback when it comes to heads. When it comes to hiring new heads, there needs to be an entire huge justification for what is this person's value going to add to the team, and is this worth it to pay them? Is it within the budget, and can we get this requisition or the request to get this new headcount on the team approved in time? There's a lot of layers when it comes to headcount. Headcount needs to be approved by the hiring manager, then go to their hiring manager, and then go up all the way to the VP sometimes, and it goes on and on until that requisition can be approved. Now, even though the headcount is one of the biggest drivers for a spend on a company's P&L, you might not be actually looking at headcount to cut if you want the business to succeed and grow. If the first place that you're looking is to cut headcount when you need to hit numbers and perform well, then you're just not performing operatively. You're not making the most out of your people. Because one of the pieces that we should be looking at when it comes to operational expense forecasting is, can we get better prices with our vendors? Are we being as capital efficient as possible? Are we taking bulk deals when it comes to wholesale? Or are we taking the tax write-offs that we possibly can when it comes to saving as much money as possible? There's so many ways that you can look outside of cutting headcount to reduce your operational expenses to make the company more efficient. So don't just look at headcount and say, oh, we need to cut more heads to save more money. Because if you cut more heads, who's going to be working on the product at the end of the day in order to drive the business? Though business leaders want to see you do more with less, sometimes cutting heads isn't going to be the first optimal option. And remember, when you cut heads, you're killing livelihood, but anything for the shareholders, right? It sounds pretty morbid to say, but that's the way that the business goes. That's the way that corporate has taught many of employees to drive the business. But depending on the company culture or where the company wants to go in the future, that's really going to depend on how you want to forecast, how you want to budget for the years to come. Additionally, in my time, I took on a portfolio management role. And when it comes to portfolio management, you're actually looking at all of the projects that exist on your business unit. You're going to be looking at project A, project B, project C, how much you're going to be spending for that project. Is that project going to give you a return? And if that project is going to give you a return, by what year will you get that return by? When will you see results for this? If the inflection point, which is going to be the big breakthrough for this project, isn't going to be until 2030, another 5 years from now, then do we want to focus on it today when we have big projects that can be hitting their inflection points in 1 to 2 years? The industry is always changing, so you want to make sure that you're tackling the highest impact projects that are going to drive the most value back into the business, whether that be in terms of technological advances or money capitalization. Now you're going to look at each project and say, which ones are going to make my cut list? I need to cut some projects out and I need to add some projects in. I only have this amount of money to spend for projects in the next year or so. How can I fit all of this spend without going overboard and not getting a return for the shareholders? Now, what I found throughout my career is that as finance, you don't have an engineering background, so you're not going to understand the products most of the time. The engineers are going to be the closest to the product. So we need to bridge that gap through communication throughout the entire life cycle. And once you actually sit down with your business partners and understand what they're working on, what they're building, you can kind of relate that back to the numbers and say, hey, this is important, let's bake that in. Or you can say, hey, maybe this way is going to be more efficient. Does that work? It's really picking the brains of your business partners to try to see where the most efficient way of spending or allocating capital is going to be for the business. Now, that's just like the operational side. When it comes to other things, you could be forecasting a plethora of things. I was forecasting the company holiday parties. How much are we going to spend on each person? Is each person going to bring a plus one? If they bring a plus one, then how much is that going to cost? And if we get this venue, how much will it be? Though you don't actually know because somebody else is planning, you kind of have ballpark numbers of where they can spend. So you're giving direction to everyone within the team that is going to be spending money. And once you give that direction, they have a budget, they can stick to it, and you hold them accountable to that budget. And once you're able to model everything out, you are actually able to give that said direction to hopefully drive accuracy to the business. Now, when it comes to FP&A or financial planning and analysis, a lot of the times you'll be doing an actuals versus budget. And what that really is what did we spend at the end of this quarter versus what did we think we were going to spend? And you kind of crisscross applesauce, figure out what the variance or difference is to actually let people know here's where we were off or here's where we were right. And at the end, did we come close to where we thought we were going to spend, and what differed? What went wrong? What went right? So, which is why we have these post-mortem meetings or meetings that come after the quarter that let us know, hey, this is what was good and here's what didn't work out, so we know for the future. Of course, you're never going to be 100% accurate, but you can always try to be. It's just the way life and business goes. Now, in corporate FP&A, there's this thing called ad hoc requests or one-off requests that just happen from higher leadership. Now, the CEO might ask, hey, if we cut marketing spend by 20%, can you forecast how much that's going to be for our bottom line? So you'll quickly run a report or do your analysis and ship it off to them so they can actually just know or wonder and figure out what that actionable insight might be. Now, a lot of the times, financial analysts are always working with data. This data comes from different systems, different areas, and you need to pick and pull from where you want to show a report. The report might have different things from other reports as well, and they come from different sources. So they might not have the same unique identifier, but we need to find linkage or commonality between all of these different sheets. So you as a financial analyst need to be very great at Excel or some kind of spreadsheet software where you're going to analyze all of the numbers and see what are the biggest drivers for change in that quarter so you can better make decisions for when the future decision does come. So if there's any skill that I recommend, it's really just learning your hard skills, which is going to be anything like SAP, Excel, Tableau, Power Query within Excel, Power BI if you guys don't use Tableau. And now it is shifting towards learning SQL or connecting two databases together. I would focus on a lot of those things because that is what the job descriptions are asking for. I would also work on a lot of the soft skills as well. The soft skills are really just talking to people, getting a gist of what the corporate life wants. So what is the best and most effective way of talking to somebody? And how can I extract as much information that I need without pissing them off or keeping the seas at bay at good temperatures? Remember, you don't want to boil the ocean or have too many ducks in a freaking basket. I don't know what the saying is, but you don't want to make things too harder than it needs to be. Just be easy to work with, have a great attitude when you come in, and just be curious to learn more. So if you're thinking about a career in finance, let me know, does this help you at all? I hope that this, in my experience, is actually worth for you to go back and reflect on and see what corporate finance is kind of like. And if you guys are enjoying this type of content, make sure that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel because we are talking all things finance. If you made it to this point in the video, you are a true MVP and stick around for more. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace out.